House issuing a veto threat ahead of today's Senate vote on legislation to crack down on sanctuary cities. Hi, everyone. I'm Gretchen Carlson, and this is The Real Story. That vote expected to get underway shortly, but Democrats are likely to block debate, essentially killing the bill. Our next guest, Senator Rand Paul, will be voting in just a few minutes. He's the author of a brand new book, Our Presidents and Their Prayers. The Republican senator also running for president, as you know. Senator Paul, how are you going to vote on the sanctuary city bill?
I'm for it. I don't think that cities should have the right to ignore federal law, particularly when the federal law is something that is the prerogative of the federal government, and that's immigration. It doesn't happen any other time in our system. For example, I live in Kentucky, and if someone is in Ohio in a jail for burglary, but they're wanted for murder in Kentucky, as soon as they get out of jail, we transfer them directly to jail in Kentucky. I don't understand why it wouldn't be the same for people wanted for crimes like in San Francisco.
Right.
And this young lady might still be alive if we had actually paid attention to this.
Of course, you're speaking about Kate Steinle and something now called Kate's Law that's attached to this piece of legislation. There's her photo right there. I want you to listen to Bill O'Reilly, who was on The Real Story yesterday. He says this whole vote is going to be a farce today. Listen to this.
Everyone in the Senate knew the Democrats were never going to vote on defunding sanctuary cities, or Planned Parenthood for that matter. And it's a fraud. And that's why the American people despise the Congress of the United States. We all know it's a ruse. And unfortunately, something very worthy, like Kate's Law, was attached to the defunding of the sanctuary cities, which I support, by the way. Let's see who opposes Kate's Law. Let's see who wants convicted aggravated felons to come back after being deported and not punished in a mandatory way.
So is it a ruse today?
No, I think he's confused on the issue. We often take up bills that we may not have the votes for, but that's how you have what's called a division of the House. We see how people vote on either side, and in the next election, that vote may well be very important as to who gets elected or not elected. But just because you think you might lose is not an argument for not having a vote. The other thing is that this does put pressure on Democrats in vulnerable seats to make a decision, because I think the idea of sanctuary cities is very unpopular, and we should put them on the spot.
And I don't know actually who would vote against this, because basically what the law says is that if you have illegally re-entered this country at least twice before, that this would put a crackdown on that, as well as if you've been convicted of an aggravated felony or worse. It just doesn't seem to make sense. But let's see how the vote goes, Senator. I want to move on and get your thoughts on this. The FBI and Secret Service investigating reports that a teenager hacked into CIA Director John Brennan's personal email account, and Homeland Security Secretary Jay Johnson, the unidentified hacker, now reportedly claiming Deputy Defense Secretary Robert Work will be next. So, Senator, would these hackers be more easily apprehended and potentially stopped with a more robust NSA program that you were against?
No, I don't think they're related at all. I'm all for a robust NSA program. I'm just not for indiscriminately collecting the records of all Americans. So I think they're separate issues, true, and unrelated. But I am for protecting our secrets. I am for trying to make sure, for example, I think the fact that Hillary Clinton kept potentially classified information on her own private server against her own rules and against the rules of the State Department is a very important breach. And so I am for protecting our secrets, and I think that's consistent with not wanting indiscriminate collection of bulk records.
Let's talk about foreign policy. Russian military commander admitting to the press that the real story behind Russia's incursion into Syria is to actually help Syria's President Assad, not help American-backed rebels. And this comes as you blasted Senator Rubio, another Republican presidential candidate, for calling for a no-fly zone in Syria. So why is he wrong?
Well, I think it would be very, very dangerous, and probably would possibly get us involved in World War III. Because currently Iraq and Syria have invited Russia into their airspace. So if someone like Senator Rubio wants to have a no-fly zone, he would have to then agree to shoot down Russian planes that are flying in that airspace already. It's a really, really naive and foolish notion, and we should be very wary of who we have as our commander-in-chief, because we don't want somebody who makes the mistake that Ronald Reagan and many other great leaders avoided, and that is getting into an unnecessary war with Russia.
Okay, I know you've said that there is a false media narrative going on about how you are doing in the polls. Not sure exactly what that is, but you should be happy with a new poll out today showing you ahead of Chris Christie, Ted Cruz, Carly Fiorina, and John Kasich. So what did you mean by the false narrative?
Well, we do appreciate this vote and this poll that shows an improving trend for us. But we also think that young people and independents are underrepresented in all of these polls. And we think we're doing better than anybody with the youth vote. We also think we're doing better than anybody with the independent vote. And I think if those were better represented in a way they will be represented in the election, I think you'd find it a much tighter race.
All right. Senator Rand Paul joining us right before the important vote on sanctuary cities. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks.